Hello and welcome to the Film Ireland podcast. Today we are delighted to be joined by guest host Roisin Kearney, and today she'll be chatting with Canadian actor Travis Nelson, who starred in film, TV and streamers internationally since 2009. So you might recognise him from Netflix's The Recruit or Amazon's The Lake, but lately he's been working in Ireland, having starred in DLR-funded comedy horror Conveyance and Blumhouse horror Drop, which will hit cinemas later this year.
Well, hello, Travis. I've been flicking through your past professional work over the last good number of years, and there's quite a bit there to get through. So we'll tip away and we'll have a little look-see through the last, how many years is it now?
Gosh, 17, maybe 17 years. Don't ask me to
17.
do math. That's why I'm in the arts. I don't know.
Yeah.
Long enough, but also, not long at all at the same time. It feels it.
You were young enough when you started out. You got some great work early on in your teens. Was that straight out of college, or how did that work?
No, a bit in school, high school for us. I said to my mom when I was like 17, I want to be an actor, and she said, "Sure, okay, well, go find yourself an agent and good luck." So I thankfully had a family friend who was an actress, and she was working in the city. And I'm from a small town outside of Calgary, so I didn't really have much access to the arts. But I had this one family friend that we would go see her in plays, and so she helped me write up a resume and send it out to agents who ultimately wanted me to get into a class and kind of audition for them, which I did. And then I found myself with an agent, and mom would drive me to the auditions. And yeah, that's how it started. And then that was in Alberta, and then turned 18 and said, okay, where next? And that was Vancouver. So, which would be very much kind of the Hollywood north of Canada. I mean, along with Toronto, but Vancouver kind of has that title, I would say.
Yeah, it has a little bit of everything in Vancouver. You have
Yeah. Oh, everything. Yeah, I know. Yeah, it does. I mean, it has the weather on its side, and it has the production studios, and it has just such an amazing set of crew.
So you went alone at 18 to Vancouver?
Yep. Yeah, I went alone. Drove out there with my mom in my car, and again, family friend. A lot of I have to say, a lot of my early networking is through someone who knows someone who helped me get on set. And I say that to any young actor starting out. You really try to spread your net, and if you're lucky, you'll have a mom who knows, or a dad who has a friend who has a cousin who's on set as anything. And in this case, I was able to get on set as a background wrangler when I got to Vancouver. So I was in charge of the background, signing them in, and and that was amazing because it really got me on a set in a studio and holding a walkie and kind of just in the world of television. And through that, I met another lovely woman named Sarah, who over the years got me into movies like Mission Impossible as Jeremy Renner's hand double, or got me in a film as Zac Efron's stand-in and his double. So all these experiences, they weren't acting, were building my awareness and my foundation for
Yeah,
film.
and having the confidence to, at that young age, like, I mean, 18 is young, but having the confidence to go and really throw yourself into it. And when I was looking through all the little clips of all the different things, I was like, oh, it's Christmas time. There was snow in a number of them as I went through. So then when you were
Oh
talking
yeah.
about Vancouver, I mean, it really is, it does lend itself to
Oh
being
yeah, for sure.
do
And
that.
a lot of those Christmas ones I did in my late 20s, and those were all in Ottawa, in the other side of the country where it is bitterly cold. I mean, I wouldn't say no to a Lifetime or a Hallmark film, during February when things are slow or when times are slow. But when you're standing outside in a tiny jacket and you're meant to be warm and it's minus 25 and you have to kiss the actress at 2 a.m., you I think you would want to be anywhere else. But that's the job, you know.
It is. You may question your life choices in those moments, but it is
Yeah.
the job ultimately.
Mm.
So you've recently been shooting over here on a new feature film called Drop, which is due to come out in April, as far as I know. What was it like here working on that with Irish Crews?
Ah, fantastic. Right off the bat. And I will say what I think is such a draw for American and Canadian crews is or productions to come here to work with Irish crews. One, just being immensely friendly off the bat, but two, it's the work-life balance here is different than it is back in North America. You know, there isn't the 16-hour, 17-hour days as common over here. Now, I'm sure they happen, but when on the drop, we were wrapped at 6 p.m. Every day, you know, and that is such a luxury to know that you can be home for dinner with your family at 7 p.m. I think that's such a, I mean, it shouldn't be a luxury, but you know, it is in this industry. And that, you know, we were always in the studio for this one. This was a beautifully built set, and probably 90% of the film took place on this set. So, you know, we weren't moving around as much, which helped with this. But yeah, so right there, just having that structure, which you know, you just people are just in better moods. Do you know what I mean? Everyone, you know, by 6 p.m., everyone's like, "Hey, see you later. I'll see you back tomorrow." And you know, Ardmore is a top tier, you know, beautiful set. And I think they have recently built maybe a new part of that set in the last 10 years. So you have the older studios, but then you have these newer studios. So it's fantastic. Yeah, I would say. And May, do you know, it was May, was it May last year? I want to say it was May last year. And of course it was like 18, 19 degrees in May. Like it was probably the warmest month of the year, you know, compared to the rest of summer. Um, but no, it was a joy. Yeah, it was an absolute joy.
Mm. And I have to sneak in that prior to that, you did
Mm.
a little short film here with our own Gemma Craig, which is called
Yes.
Conveyance, which
Yes.
actually it's going to be on next week. It's in Glasgow International Film Festival. How was that? And when you compare the two, do you see how the structure of Irish film has happened when you see the smaller, tiny productions and how they're created?
Yeah, I mean, you know what? You see that the level of talent and on the small ones, especially when you have uh, people kind of equestrian young talent or even just favors from people in the industry. Everyone's at, you know, at the top of their form, wanting to do the best work, and so you really just kind of see where it starts, if not kind of what's already happening, and there isn't much of a difference at all on the bigger sets. You know, I just did another short here, a Super 8 festival competition short. And again, there you had um, departments with years of experience. You know, I mean, I find on the short ones, especially Gemma's, people really want to be there. You know, when you're doing a short film, you're doing it because you really like the content, or you like the director, the captain at the you know at the head of the ship, and you're showing up because you know you're spending your Saturday, or you're not really doing it for anything but the love of it. So that one was particularly fun as well. And again, I hadn't been here long, and I lived with an Irish guy in Vancouver years ago, and he knew Gemma, and then he reached out and you know was like, hey, get in touch with her. She's fantastic, and she's directing a short. So. And that again, that is just how a lot of work happens. It really is. You have to kind of network and get out there. Which again, I try to remind myself even at times when I'm sitting here on a Friday night and I'm a bit like, oh, you know, and it's just like, you know, go into town, go see if you can chat with someone, or you know, that really is how stuff happens.
And sure, look, now you're living in Dublin, so
Now
you
I'm living
obviously
here.
did
Yeah,
something right.
exactly. Yeah, 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 absolutely. And Gemma Short's making the rounds. I mean, it's done great at festivals, and I think it's off to Edinburgh, is it?
Yeah,
Or
it's
Glasgow? Or,
Glasgow International next week, so that will
okay,
be on for the Fright Fest.
amazing.
It's fantastic. It's a huge, huge industry festival. So I was going to chat a little bit about there's so much here that, and I suppose that's one of the reasons I'm going through when I go through all
Mm,
films, all the work you've made, the TV shows. It's everything from sort of small independent right the way up to your big Netflix productions.
mhm.
And I suppose walking on set or walking like as you've progressed and walking on set, is there something that you've kind of always brought with you from that time when you were 18 years of age that just keeps you going and keeps you getting out there?
I mean, I guess right away it's just knowing how lucky you are to be on the set. You know, to keep getting work with gaps in between, but then still loving it, still wanting to do it. Anytime you get to go to work, it really is kind of a reminder like, okay, I'm here. We're all here. Like this is the fact that this all came together and we're all wanting to make it. So the excitement hasn't left from when I was from younger to being on set now. And yeah, professionalism, knowing what's asked of you, knowing how to keep stamina, knowing how not to be distracted, knowing when to eat your lunch and not to eat lunch if you have a big scene coming up. All like the little nuances of being ready to be called upon, because so much of it is waiting to do your bit. And sometimes your bit is so small, but you're there for 12 hours and they're like, hey, the 13th hour, will you come up? And everyone's tired and the way the shot is all really hinges on you hitting your mark and saying your one or two things sometimes on the day. Um, and yeah, and so it's really building that muscle and not feeling the weight of that expectation as much as the more you do it. Not that it goes away, but you just feel more confident.
Yeah, so kind of a healthy level of nervousness rather than the overwhelming, which I know a lot of day players I think would have when they walk onto big
Oh
sets.
yeah, yeah, and that's the hardest thing sometimes. I think to be a day player because you walk onto a set and like I've walked on the sets and people have been so nice, and I've also walked on the sets and for some particular reason everyone's in a funk or they're behind and so you're not going to always get the warmest welcome. And it doesn't mean everyone's not pleasant, but you're walking into energy, and sometimes that energy is a bit of a current, and sometimes it can be quite calm or kind of hectic. So you just have to not take it personally and and that's for just the kind of, I think when you're young, the idea of it being so fantastical, because it really is at times when you get to play in your imagination, a lot of it really is just kind of chaos, but beautiful chaos. You just have to learn to manage it. Yeah.
Beautiful chaos. I like that.
Mm.
As well as that, I was looking through some of the representation is clearly important to you in some of the productions that you've
Mm.
worked on. The Lake, which was a huge success internationally, and you've spoken before about the importance of LGBTQ representation in media.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you just tell us a little bit about that production and what drew you to it and what it meant to you to be part of it?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. No, the lake was an amazing project to be a part of. I was super lucky. I mean, to spend 2 summers on a lake in Canada during the summer, that alone and getting paid is a treat. Um, that project, I played Riley. I was a love interest to our lead character there, Justin, played by Jordan Gavaris. And yeah, he's a queer man from a small town in Canada, and he runs the gas station. Like so many things lined up to being very similar to who I was. That was a character very close to me, in being gay, but also from rural area of Canada. Um, and that one came to me like any other job of auditioning, but from the get-go, the chemistry between Jordan and I felt really cemented that. It was quite clear that we just really enjoyed riffing off each other, and that was also cast during COVID, so there was only Zooms. So I'm lucky that that chemistry and then that translated through Zoom, because that's such I find to be a tricky thing these days. But um, I'm really lucky. I've got to play queer men in a good amount of my projects of late, and not that I've been actively seeking that. It's not like I've been saying to my agent, "Hey, only find me queer roles," but they're becoming more kind of not available, it's not the right word, but they're becoming more common, and characters are becoming better written and more well-rounded, and casting does kind of have an objective in their casting to be inclusive and find accurate representation, and so the casting does come to you, those options. But yeah, I really liked that character because he was just your average dude who was a bit of a romantic, like myself. So there you go.
The clips are there. The clips are around from the trailer and stuff. So I'm looking forward to being able to see the
Yeah,
full.
dude. Yeah, it's such, what, it's a shame we got canceled. I'd say if the writer's strike didn't happen and the actors, which inevitably needed to happen, but if or shouldn't have happened, but needed to, we would have kept going because there was such, I think, love and for those characters and such an amazing team behind that show from Schitt's Creek that had come to do this show, and it's so bingeable, and yeah. But when one door closes, another shall open, and everyone on that cast is doing amazing things.
Yeah, I looked at it. It looked like the sort of thing that was great fun to make. That's the
Yeah.
thing.
Oh
And
my
you can
goodness.
feel that coming off the screen, even watching it. I mean, it was just
Absolutely.
like you say, the relationships between the characters were so good. It just felt really strong. And it's nice to have
It's nice
something.
to have your mates around you. Do you mean like when you have an ensemble like that, we always, when we were there together, we made a point, to notice how, God, we all get along. Do you know what I mean? Like there was like when you have like 10 cast and you're all around each other all the time, it's like it was great. We were kind of enjoyed hanging out.
So you didn't have to run all set at 6 o'clock. You could just hang out and
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Dream.
hope no one was recording after hours.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
so you play the lead character in I Am Sid Stone, which came out in 2020, which was a smaller production in comparison to some of the other stuff you were doing at the time.
Mhm.
What about that script, or what about it really attracted you to it, and what made you want to make it?
Yeah, that was a great opportunity, and thankfully came just before COVID hit. Again, that was a role that felt I knew the character. I knew it felt very. It's interesting when I feel an actor say it felt very close to me because inherently you're trying to play a different character. But I think is when you recognize certain characteristics or certain attributes in a character that someone has written, and you feel this calling to not to really show that, or you really want to make that person visible or make people understand that character on the page because you go, ooh, I know that, like let me tell that because I feel like I'm the one to do it. It was one of those moments where you're like, um, I can really bring a level of authenticity there while for my own journey discover maybe something more about the character that I don't see or myself. And so, sorry, to preface, that one is about a successful actor in his 20s who's closeted, who his career at the moment is kind of tanked, and he's been a bit of a Hollywood heartthrob, and now he's kind of making smaller uh, fared movies. I don't know, Christmas movies or movies of the week. Nothing wrong with those. We've all done them, and I'll do them again. But he was going from the top down to the bottom, and he meets this young man while he's shooting this film, and that man kind of disrupts something in him and calls him out for being um, kind of stuck and unkind in where he is. And so lots to work with there. I'm an actor myself. I've done some bigger ones, some smaller things. I've had my own journey of finding my authenticity and my sexuality. So yeah, what really stuck out for me with that one was the director. You had a young man named Denis who was super passionate, who had worked years to get this made, had funding from Telefilm in Canada, which is an amazing foundation, but really difficult to get money because everyone's trying to get money from them. And we shot it in Halifax, which is a beautiful city. And I really felt we punched above our weight with that one. We had a lot of the crew and camera operator had just finished doing not the lighthouse. Oh, what was the one Jonathan? What was the one with Jonathan Edgar's? There's a movie they just finished in Nova Scotia with Robert Pattinson and William Defoe. I forget the name of it now. And so you just had these young East Coast crew members who were just like excited and were jazzed and had just come from this amazing project and had poured all that energy into this project. It's the one I get the message the most about. You know, it's the one that I get messages on Instagram from old men, in not in a weird way, but in a that really touched me, or I felt like that you shone a light on that, or young men who feel they were seen and kind of are seeking advice in a way sometimes, you know. So yeah, special one.
And hugely important to put out into the world. Like, I mean, those stories touch people for a reason, you know what I mean?
They do. And when with social media, you do get reminded, you're like, okay, so it makes a reach. It doesn't get a theatrical release. And, it was on Amazon Prime through one of the stack on channels you can add to things. So, the internet is vast. So it was out there, but it wasn't, vastly distributed, but still people will find it, and it connects with people. So that's a message I remind myself, and I try to remind, young directors and actors, like, make it, because someone, not just one, many people will resonate with it somewhere.
Yeah, and the authenticity in making it, and I think that carrying that authenticity too. I mean, yes, entertainment, but we want to see ourselves reflected. Everyone wants to see themselves reflected at some level on screen.
Yeah,
and I think it's really important that that opportunity is there for people to see themselves reflected, because it helps you answer difficult questions. It is what it is. It's like counselling for £12.50 in the cinema.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But it is, no, it's and I think we were lacking that so much for a long time, and especially with the smaller indie films, it's really so important that these films get made and get out there to the world in that way.
I agree.
It's something that's, I think, is fantastic to support and continue to support. And I think a lot of actors do. A lot of actors like making the smaller budget, more indie films and our non-studio films.
Yeah, it's kind of where you cut your teeth, or where you get to really explore, I don't know, more taboo subjects, or get to explore content that maybe larger form or bigger, factors don't really do. So yeah, big fan.
And you've done a little bit of directing yourself. When talking about directors, a little bit of directing.
A little bit, yeah, a little bit. I was like, well, like, what does she see on there? A lot of small things, not a lot, a few small things. But directing is something I admire so much and have such a curiosity for, and it scares me, but in the best way. My mind works like a director when I'm acting sometimes, and it can get in the way, but I am very involved with what everyone's doing on set. Like, I like to know how it's all happening. I like to know, okay, you're doing that and you're doing that. And I will say, when you do those smaller roles, like on The Drop, we're a small cast, but we all have a very important part to play in that. It's essentially a two-hander with the supporting cast. We're all around in the restaurant. And my job, I felt, was really intertwined with the Steadicam operator and the camera movements, because it is quite a genre piece, and to get those scares and to get a certain effect, you really had to be able to dance and kind of move, the right way with your operator, more than acting, as in, like, more than any sort of dialogue. Sometimes, most of my dialogue, I was seated. So the other bits, it was interesting, and then that's why I loved it. You feel a part of it when you really have to be like, okay, what do you need me to do? I can do that. If you do that, you go this way, I'll go that way, and okay, so Um, yeah, my brain really, really loves directing. So it's in my future for sure. We'll
It's
just
when you find the right script or write the right script.
It's writing the right script as well. Exactly. Yeah. No, but I've directed some friends. I've a really good friend here in Ireland called Lynn Rafferty. She's an actress, super talented actress and writer. She's an amazing writer, and she wrote uh, this pilot in Toronto, and we shot it. And I got to direct that, and that was a really fun experience. Directing someone else's vision, but really kind of bringing it to life with them. That was a joy too. So
Yeah,
good.
no, it's an area I actually really enjoy directing other people's stuff and vice versa, other people directing
Mm,
my stuff. You know what I mean? I think sometimes it's the second vision brought in on top that kind of makes it, and same as when actors walk on set and
yeah,
they bring something to the character as they walk on set that you try to put on paper, but until you see someone bringing it to life, it's not.
exactly. And that's the thing to remember as well, isn't it? It's such a great feeling when someone brings an idea that you haven't thought about and you go, "Oh my God, yes." You're like, "Hey, yeah, like that's that collaborative nature, that collaborative environment." It's just like it's everyone's getting off. It's the best. It's the best when it's nurtured, when
Mm.
it's invited. I think it's so important.
And particularly, I suppose, on those smaller sets, like you were saying with the drop, I mean, that it's a very intense space to be making a full film in. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm,
even just from the clips and bits and pieces that I've seen, the work involved in that is in lots of ways so much more because it's every single moment right the way through, and it hitting the right tone and the
yeah,
right beats coming in at the right time and everyone working together. And film, I always say film is a team sport. That's when you really see it in the
1000%. Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
I'm dying to see it. Sorry, I'm absolutely dying to see the drop from watching the trailer. So I'm looking forward to April now when I can get it and watch it.
I know. I think it's premiering here like in 2 weeks at Southwest by Southwest. Um, so I'm excited to see the first reactions or hear the first reactions. I think Chris Landon did. I think he knows what he's doing. He knows how to make people to jump. I think he wrote one. It's in cinemas now. I think it should be in cinemas called Heart Eyes, which is another thriller um, that he seems to be a master of. So. And what a genre. People love that genre, and I mean, sorry, I do too, but like it's the horror thriller genre, I think is sustaining cinemas. Besides Marvel and superhero movies and franchises, it's the horror genre, and the thrillers. They're bringing people in.
Yeah, and when you see like even with Conveyance and the shorts and the whole Fright Fest thing within Glasgow Film Festival, like it's such a huge part of the festival and it
Mm,
draws its own independent crowd. And when I was looking through your stuff, you manage very well to go between genres. You've comedy, you've thriller, you've drama. I mean, it's every space you seem to be able to walk into and occupy and own.
yeah, yeah. I mean, listen, by maybe not by design, more by where opportunity or comes knocking. Like I'm very much still in the as most actors for their entire career, and there's nothing wrong with it. At whatever, I just audition, and what I get to be a part of is a lot of luck. It is a lot of, it's a lot of factors, but I think luck is up there.
I
Um,
think talent's in there as well,
Oh
Scott.
no, it is. Yeah, sure. I wouldn't say it is, but I maybe I just saw a clip from Dame Judi Dench there saying, and she's been doing it like how many decades now, and nothing gives you more inspiration than like a seasoned actor giving us some wisdom. But she says, she was like, don't be mistaken. A lot of this career is right place, right time, and someone sees you at the right moment, and I think it's healthy to remember that because it does kind of keep you in a good mental space because there are times when you're like, oh God, like I was just up there like 6 months ago, and now I'm here. Why am I not working again? And um, so, but yes, no, listen, love talent, but luck for sure.
Yeah, no, it can absolutely be a devastating career, and the ups and downs are very, very difficult to take. No matter what area you're in,
Mm,
they're always there, and it's I think it's very vulnerable as an actor. It can be quite vulnerable because you are dependent on, writer, director, the crew,
mm.
producers, production, and you know, and vice versa. If you're writing and directing, you're depending on the producers and the deals that are going on in the background. And there's such an immense amount of work going on in the background all the time that
All the
sometimes by the
time.
time you
Yeah.
get to set, it's almost like, ooh, and then you go again. But it's and especially again with the indies, because they're difficult to finance. You have a much harder time.
Hmm.
But so worthwhile, so worthwhile. So you're over in Dublin at the moment and you're auditioning and meeting people both here and obviously back in Canada as well.
Yep.
Is there anything in the near future, or is there anything you're looking at or anything you would like to do?
Well, currently I'm on a Canadian show called Murdoch Mysteries, which is a long-standing Canadian production. If anyone listening has ever heard of it, which I'm sure maybe one person has because it's been going on for ages. Um, and that's great. I kind of get called. I'm not dead, so it's always a good sign that you're going to come back at some point. It's been going on forever. So like, but right now I'm kind of in my niche. I'm the love interest to one of the leads. So I'm uh I'm kind of back and forth to Toronto for that, I'm really hoping to get on stage in Dublin. That's the kind of another mountain I'd love to climb. Um, and terrifying one, but needed, I think, for my creative soul at the moment. So yeah, and God, I mean, I was having coffee with Barry. I think Barry is it Barry Coyle? Gosh, I should know his last name. He graciously sat down with me yesterday. He's the casting director at the Abbey. And again, how like I've done in the past is if you can just shake someone's hand and say hi and have a coffee, you know, hopefully they can keep you in mind and you can kind of work your way from there. So yeah, I mean, it was great to listen to his advice and what it's like casting for the National Theatre and I was kind of curious as a Canadian, like is there any way I could fit into that world? Because I do wonder while here and being Canadian, rightfully so, I'm not gonna get a role, an Irish role as an Irishman over an Irishman because the accent, I mean, like I can't do, you know what I mean? I would be mortified to try and fail when it's not even good enough, with your castmates who are actually Irish. So, now that said, like he said, not all productions here are require an Irish accent, and Ireland is an evolving country, and there's many people here, so theater will always kind of display that. So yeah, so hopefully you'll see me on stage and auditions. I would say the industry right now is feeling a bit of a slower kind of waking up from the writer strike and the actor strike. I think there's been a collective awareness of that. There's definitely stuff happening, but we were all kind of at least the motto before Christmas there from a lot of actors and agents was just make it to 25, or there was some slogan there we were all kind of saying. But
Yeah, with Mate 25 and survive till 20.
survive to 25. There you go. Thank you. Thank you. So here we are in 25. And I always find February to be the hardest month, but we're nearly done in what, 2 days now? Whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're on
So
our last day, are we? Right.
on our
Yeah.
last day.
Last 20.
Um, but yeah, so hopefully on stage, if not on a screen. And I know hopefully we're taking the Super 8 film that we did if we get accepted. And I think this young man who directed it, who's phenomenal, he had all the team and all the talent out there for it. That premieres at either London or Cannes. So if you can get into those markets, you're laughing.
And shooting on Super 8. I mean, I've shot in Super 8 myself.
Have you? Okay. Yeah, yeah. What a challenge. What a challenge. But like,
You really have to know what you're doing before you start go. And obviously with equipment, the equipment I was using was 40 years old or 50 years old at the top, even at that stage, I think. And
tricky. But like, if done, like what a fun level of constraint to kind of, funnel creativity through in
yeah,
cutting in camera. So
yeah.
I'm quite excited.
It makes you make every shot count.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. I love that pressure. I really do. Yeah.
There's no oh, let's go again, let's go again, let's go. That doesn't happen when you're shooting on film. Don't.
No, exactly. Yeah. And yeah.
But it's also beautiful, I have to say. I love watching Super 8 16, and on screen I just think it's beautiful. It has a certain warmth
It
to it.
does. Yeah. It transports you, doesn't it? It doesn't, there's some kind of time machine element kind of still there. We still kind of yearn for that. Sometimes the clearer the image, the more we're like, ugh, like more noise. I want a little more noise. Yeah.
And is there anything now while you're here? So a little bit of theater, that would be nice. A little bit of film, that would be nice. Or do
Yeah,
you?
yeah, a little bit of film, that would be nice. There are a few American productions happening here. There's the Rainmaker right now that's being shot. And I know Alicia Silverstone was shooting a series here, I think called Corked. Um, so there's work coming through, you
Yeah.
know.
Thank good. After 2024, I think we all deserve a little bit of a
We
break for
do. Yeah,
some time.
absolutely.
The Drop is the next big production that you're in that is going to be popping up in April. So, are you excited about that? What is the plan, or is there a plan for
Yeah.
distribution or anything?
Yeah, so that you're right. No, it's April 11th to anyone who's listening. So it's in cinemas nationwide. I would say here, there, and everywhere. Yeah, that's so it's a full-on theatrical release, which I'm super excited about. I've only had two of those in my career, and I think they're becoming more rare as things go to streaming. So to be on the big screen is it kind of tickles that childhood dream um very much in a way, do you know? So no, I'm buzzed. I It premieres at Southwest by Southwest next week. I'm not going to that premiere. If it does premiere in Los Angeles, I'm hoping I get to fly out there. Um, but if not, I think I'll gather some friends here and go to a little premiere somewhere in a cinema. Imagine renting out the Stella. I don't think I could afford to do that, but that'd be fantastic. Um, but yeah, no, check it out. Everyone, go check it out if you can. I think it's a great date movie, and I won't say much about me in it because then that will give too much away. But yeah,
It certainly comes across like it's a masterclass in filmmaking in that genre as well, from what you've said.
yeah,
Talk.
no, I agree. Sorry, I stand behind that. It will be yeah, what he's done, Chris, with the suspense and how he lived in one more or less one location at one time. I think it's gonna be really neat for people to see. So
So you're absolutely interested in any work that's coming along in Ireland while you're here, I hope, and it would be fantastic to see you on stage or in some smaller indie Irish movie if you're about. Is there any way people can contact you?
uh yeah, look, I mean everything's online. So I would say if any if anyone's out there listening who's hiring and all my contact and manager information's online. IMDb, that's your source. But if you type my name in, you'll find it easy enough. So yeah, like many actors, we're looking, we're ready to work. So um, pick up the phone.
Well, Travis Nielsen, it was an absolute pleasure to chat to you today for Film Ireland. Thank you so much. I'm really excited about seeing The Drop, and I am actually going to be over in Glasgow to see Conveyance, so I'm very excited to see that. And hopefully we'll be seeing an awful lot more of you on Irish stages and in Irish cinemas in the near future. Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much.
Thank you very much. It was an absolute joy. I appreciate it. And yeah, all the best to everyone and your listeners.
And to you. Thank you.
So comedy horror Conveyance will premiere at the FrightFest Short Film Showcase at Glasgow Film Festival on the 8th of March. And if you enjoyed the podcast, don't forget to like, subscribe and leave us a review. And you can listen to us on all podcast platforms and check out filmireland.ie for articles, news and keeping up to date.